Are there any words that act as creative triggers for you where they always pull your freestyle in a certain direction, even when you're trying to steer it somewhere else? The answer to this is a resounding yes, 1000%. This is a thing. First and foremost, there are certain words that always trigger certain rhymes for me. Like the classic example would be full throttle water bottle, right? That became somewhat memified. Yeah, that's a classic example. And there are tons of other ones where every time a certain thing comes up, you just automatically think of these rhyming sounds that are just so ingrained in my mind from years of freestyling that I just grab the ones that are easiest to grab. And then over time, it's like, oh, okay, every time, somebody is wearing Nike, he talks about just do it in his psyche. It's always psyche to Nike. Again, there are countless others. If you transcribe 15 to 20 of my freestyles, you would be able to immediately start to highlight certain patterns. Like, oh, okay, this is what he rhymes with that most of the time. So that's one area where this can happen, where you can kind of get a little boxed in by your own vocabulary. And then the other way that I find it happening is in sort of the free associated terms that follow after a certain word. So when I'm doing what's often referred to as a scheme, so rather than just rhyming once with the word, I'll free associate other words, subsequent words, and rhyme with those. And sometimes those all kind of get chunked down and packaged into a thing. For example, tree. If I'm freestyling about a tree, or if the word given to me was tree, often there's a couplet about trees and how I'm growing like trees. And then often it's followed by a couplet about being deeply rooted, which is followed by a couplet about growing from the soil. And it often happens in that order. Again, if you trace back, like if you were to search every time that Harry Mack freestyles about a tree, you might see this becoming this sort of repetitive scheme that occurs in the same order. And that's just one example. There are others like that where it's kind of like a whole free associative scheme that I've created over time gets sort of packaged and bundled. And then I'm just sort of grabbing that down from the cloud in that moment when I'm having to rap about a tree. It's not word for word the same. It's not verbatim. Each one would be slightly varied and different. The rhythmic approach would be different. It's based on the musical context of the moment, so I might be doing it in double time, which is going to have its own unique character as opposed to if I was doing it over a boom bap beat and so on and so forth. It's not as if I've memorized word for word 8 bars about trees. And anytime someone gives me the word tree, I'm just like, enter 8-bar memorized thing. It's not that at all. I still feel very much like I'm improvising, and I am improvising. So those are kind of the two main ways that I see this coming about in terms of me having words that trigger certain directions, whether I want to go down that direction or not. And so I have mixed feelings on this in general. On the one hand, it's incredibly helpful and in some ways, I think, necessary to have sort of chunked ideas, bundled ideas that are, living somewhere in the back of your mind that you can grab relatively easily. Anytime I want to rhyme with water bottle, the fact that I immediately know it rhymes with full throttle is helpful because I'm freestyling. I don't have a ton of time to say, what else rhymes with bottle? Sometimes you do just need to be able to grab what is quickly available and what is easily accessible. And so in some ways, I have no issue with it. On the other hand, over time, it does start to make my style repetitive. Right? Certainly with the tree example, it's like, well, every time I see a tree, I don't always want to go down that exact same route. And so that then prompts me to start, when I'm not in the field, when I'm not out there doing guerrilla bars or having words thrown at me in real time, if I'm not on stage, but rather when I'm back in the practice room and I have the luxury of time to explore, it would really behoove me and I haven't necessarily done this yet with tree, but it would behoove me to now start thinking, well, what are other directions I can go next time I'm given the word tree?